Hello, I'm J.R. Richardson. I'm with Bellevue University and the Share Your Story project. Bellevue University is a partner with the Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial Foundation, and we are doing the Library of Congress oral interview project for a Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial Park. Ron is with us today. Ron is an Air Force veteran who has agreed to share his story with our listeners. Ron, if you can tell a little bit about your name and where you kind of grew up to give our listeners an idea of your background.
My name is Ron Svoboda, and I grew up in the middle of Nebraska, in between Norfolk and Columbus, in the small town of Lee. Grew up there and was trying to get my way to what I wanted to do in the world. After I graduated from high school, I went to work and tried construction. And a lot of construction jobs got you, when you're younger, it got you on the digging part where you did all the dang slave work.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't fun. And then, when I was 20, or before I was 20, I got asked to go with an option to go see my recruiter. And I went on February 2nd, before that, and was on delayed enlistment for 6 months. And the night before I was to take off, you'll find this funny, was February 2nd, I had to be on the aircraft, ready to go down to San Antonio. My friend and I, we both sold our cars. We were in a town 7 miles away from where our ride was to take us to the airport, and it started blizzarding. We wound up walking 7 miles through a blizzard, and we got chewed out because people were looking for us all over the place. And when we got to my friend's mom's house, we didn't think we were that cold. But you could hear body tingled for quite a long time, and we got called stupid. But we made it to the airport, and on February 2nd at 3:30 in the morning, we were doing the suitcase drill at basic training, where it's pick it up, put it down, where they just de-lousing you.
And Ron, you mentioned that it was a blizzard. You went into the Air Force and you left from Columbus, Nebraska?
Omaha.
Oh, Omaha, thank you.
Yes.
So Omaha in February is a most likely chance that it's going to be extremely cold.
Oh yeah.
So I could see why you would get yelled at.
And the aircraft we flew down there on was Braniff. And my first flight on an aircraft, and it was more like a roller coaster than an aircraft, because they said we went through some storms going down there.
Right.
But got down to San Antonio and got put in 3708 BMTS squadron, basic military, and the TI I got didn't like me because I was 20, almost 20. He wanted an honor flight of all 18-year-olds. So he marched us around in chukka boots for about a week, and he said, if you break out a blister, let me know. Well, I told him, and he had us march 4 days in chukka boots. My foot swelled up like a balloon, and I found out I had cellulitis in my foot. Then I did reading, and I found out that Roosevelt's one of his kids died of it. And I had a week in medical hold. So my promise being a helicopter engine mechanic went out of the way, because I had to start basic training all over again. And with another squadron in 3708, graduated out of there, and then I went to tech school at Lowry Air Force Base in Colorado. And that was a beautiful place. It's kind of right in the bad parts of Colorado, the Denver area. But we were stationed there there was 2 schools on the base, and we thought everybody from from the other school that was there was jerks and assholes. But then we found out that that other group there was the intelligence squadron, and they couldn't talk to anybody. They should have told us that before we were leaving. But yeah, they taught you all the stuff you needed to know about on loading munitions on an aircraft. And when it come to the 105, we just walked past it, and he goes, "That's a 105G model. You'll never work on it. You'll never see it." Well, when I got stationed at George Air Force Base, California, we had the first 3 weeks I was there, we went to the bowling alley. For 3 weeks, we had to sit there from 8:30 till noon, and then from 1 till 3:30. And that was because Manning was there and they wanted more people at the base. But then they put us to work on the aircraft, where you learned everything. And with me, I was a 2-man on the load crew. I had to know all the cockpit switches, and I also did all the putting the fuses into the bombs and everything else. And we worked with everything. We worked with nuclear weapons, gas bombs, citadel bombs. We had the missiles that AIM-9, AIM-7, AIM-65, and there was this one on the 105 that was just about as long as the aircraft. And it was where they used to take out SAM sites.
Wow, okay.
And they could lock them in a long ways away and fire them. And it was interesting to learn all this stuff, but I had a misfortune where a ratchet broke when we were putting centerline pylons on, and my left hand slapped against the side of the aircraft. I couldn't open my hand up, sitting there shaking, and the guys there were looking at me going, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I go, "There's a problem here. I can't open my hand." So they rushed me to emergency, got me into emergency, and I still was sitting there with my hand closed. This major come over, grabbed my hand, and started massaging it. Told me to turn it over to the top, started massaging it, and then he was sitting there for about 10 minutes doing that and asking me stuff, and then he told me, "Look over there, look at that hot nurse." So I looked, and that's when he snapped my fingers out. Him and I had a little discussion about him seeing intensive care, and by the time it was all done, I got told a lawful order, and if I didn't do it, he was going to take me to jail. Well, that was to move my fingers. So I finally moved my fingers, and he goes, "Now shut up, go back to work, don't bitch about it no more." Well, from California, was supposed to be froze there, had an apartment, everything set up, and I got orders. I went home on leave for a month, come back, worked 2 months, got another set of orders given to me where I'd take another month leave. And I go, "I don't have it." "Well, Ron, you're going to Ramstein, Germany." So I had to load up and get on an aircraft there, and 12 hours in the air to Frankfurt. And then there was a bus that met you at the airport, took us down to Ramstein. And at Ramstein, I started working on the F-4 aircraft. Same position on the load team, and had to know everything there the same. And we had, I forgot to tell you about Red Flag in California.
Okay.
That was something we were sent to. It's a war that's going on, air war that's going on all the time in the United States. And we had 4 aircraft up there, and I was 2 of his weapons loaders went with him. And it's all computerized war.
It's a competition, though, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's where they train the pilots to do all the tricks and all the stuff they need to learn. And spend a week there. But then when I got back to Germany, and being you were a weapons loader, you had to go to all the bomb ranges. I got 6 weeks in Zaragoza, Spain, where we did missions down there. 6 weeks in Aviano, Italy, And then I think I made somebody mad because I got 6 weeks in Incirlik, Turkey. And after our incoming briefing there, we went to the base theater to relax because we found out you hit a Turk, you get 11 years in the penitentiary. If you do anything, it's 11 years. And if our government don't find out about it, where you went, you don't eat until they pay them $2,000 to feed you. But then they tell you, you are an infidel dog. If you go to prison, you are lower than their lowest prisoner, and you will be treated as such. So that's a good country to really find out how good our country is. But you learn different things wherever you go. And that night we went to the movie theater to relax, to get away from just what we had in our head. And the movie that played that night was called Midnight Express. It's about an American being chased by the Turkish government and police for drugs. And we're all going, well, what is this supposed to be with the briefing? And I never played so many games of drunken softball in my life as on that base, because you didn't want to go off it. But when I was back in Germany, I got my first surgery on my left wrist at Landstuhl Army Hospital, and they took a bone that was dead out of my wrist on the inside, a little bit of one down in here on the wrist. Took that out and put it, what they call a Swanden's implant, in my wrist, which is silicone rubber. And then I got to the point where, well, with being a weapons loader, you didn't get no re-enlistment bonus. That is one thing we never got. It seems like once they got through with you, they wanted to be done with you. But with my wrist and everything, and I got out of the military, got out of there with nothing wrong, no problems.
Right.
Then I come back to the United States, and the doctors that worked on my wrist said, Ron, you've lost 20% movement of your wrist file when you get home at the VA. And this is what I don't want people to ever have. I filed through the VA. 4 times in 1979 I had to take off work to go to VA in Lincoln for them to call me a liar to my face and say, stop trying to scam your country for money. And that was 4 times in 79. And they really made me mad. But my life has been where there for a long time I wanted to hide. And I went truck driving for 3 years with a moving company. And there was just a few people who knew where I was. And with my family, it wasn't that good either, because I'd show up for the holidays, and that's about it. And what I come up with is, you got to keep your life and do what you got to. And I got called a liar to my face for 18 years from the VA. I fought them, and I finally won. And what I do now is basically, I got to keep myself alive, and I've picked up something I mow for vets that can't. And I'm out there on the streets talking to vets and telling them about our DAV here, because I don't want to see anybody have to go through what I did. But this taught me a lot. And going through life the way I did put me where I'm all right. But it took a good deal through rehab, through the VA, to get my head back in the right spot. Because I was there for a long time. I wouldn't even say I was worth anything. Because for having people see me and know me, I haven't had a clean face since November 2nd of 1979. Because we weren't we weren't liked. When you come back to this country, after Europe, where the Europeans look at you all the time and go, Yankee, go home. You come back here, you're on a bus, you've been in the country for 2 years and away from here. You're going from McGuire Air Force Base, New Jersey, to New York Airport. Well, halfway on the bus, we had the bus driver pulled to the median because you could smell pot in the back of the bus. He walked back to the back of the bus, grabbed the guy that was in the back of the bus smoking pot, and threw him out in the middle of the median. And we were in the middle of, really nowhere. And he goes, don't worry about him, the state police are coming for him. And now you'll get your briefing to what's going to happen at the airport. He goes, you're going to stand up in a straight line, look at the guy's heels in front of you, no facial expression whatsoever. If they stick their hand out, move out of the way, they're getting you in the range to spit on you. And he goes, and you will get fruit, vegetables, and rotten eggs thrown at you and be called a woman and baby killer. And he goes, but just stay in your line, keep your head down, things will be okay when we get you in the airport. And it just, people weren't told the right things. Because they weren't told why our people had to kill women and babies. And that was because they'd flash them with a hand grenade when a bunch of them got around. But our government, it tells you what it wants to, and you got to learn how life is going and the way this country is. And this country's great, but we got problems like everybody else. And it takes people like us to get out there and let people know exactly what they need to do. And I could sit there like some people and be a, bitch about the way the life is and my body and stuff like that. But I get up and do something because I can't sit. I've got post-traumatic stress, depression, addictive personality. And if I sit too long, my mind goes nuts. And that's why I mow people's vets' yards, because it keeps my head in place. But our United States Air Force and all the stuff we got makes this country one of the best, with all the services together, make it the best we've ever had. And I'd rather be in a place where you can talk freely. Instead of when I was in Germany and overseas, I saw some things that weren't nice. And you just learn. This country is a lot better than other places.
Let's take you back to basic training, Ron. You and I went to the same basic training squadron. We were both part of the 3708th.
Yep.
I saw pictures of Jerry Mathers, because Jerry Mathers was in the 3708.
The Beaver.
The Beaver, yeah. What did you take away that kind of sticks with you, good or bad, from basic training? What would be that one, maybe two nuggets that you'll always remember? A drill sergeant, something you mentioned to pick them up, put them down.
Yeah, that's a suitcase drill.
Yeah, what would be one or two things you remember that was so impactful that you can remember it like yesterday?
We had my second TI that I got put in with was a hard man. But after he got to know us, and he had a little problem with, he backed over his 3-year-old daughter. And he was down, and we made him feel better. And it kind of put us as a family. And then he come into the dorm when we were cleaning, and all of a sudden the dorm guard said, "Guys, put some pants on. A woman's coming." And all of us, a woman, and he brought his daughter in to see all of us. Because one guy, when he said he run over and he goes, "Did you beat the son of a bitch?" And then he goes, "That was me." But he taught us a little family and how to get along a little better in the military. And another thing that sticks with me is when I was in basic, one night all of us got to go see a Bob Hope show down in San Antonio. The next day we got to read the news article, and the people in San Antonio with the money were pissed at Bob Hope. Because all of us that were there from basic got in free. And he did his show for us. And that next 2 days after that, we read the article he wrote back to San Antonio, telling them, I don't do shows for people like you. I do it for the people that are defending this country, and I'm happy I do it. And it just made it stick in your head. And when he did pass, it hurt.
Did Bob Hope have his show down there at the time you were down there? Because out on Lackland Air Force
No,
Base.
he had it. It was at downtown San Antonio.
Yeah, now it's on Lackland Air Force
Yeah.
Base. His actual, the Bob Hope Theater.
Oh, it is?
on-
Oh, okay.
Is on the base.
But we had to go downtown,
Yeah.
and right when I walked past, there was 3 auditoriums, and over here was Mott the Hoople. And I'm sitting there looking, and this TI's looking at me, and he goes, you keep looking over there, and I go, let's go there. And he goes, no, we got tickets for Bob Hope, not Mott the Hoople. But it was something good for relaxing us
Yeah.
and letting us enjoy.
That is very iconic. I'm envious that you got to see the great Bob Hope.
Yes,
What an incredible entertainer.
and it's
And American.
over
American icon.
in Germany.
Yep.
Harry Chapin, come to the NCO club.
Harry Chapin?
Yep. And we all sang with him, and with me, it seemed like you put a little bit of alcohol and drugs in me. I do things. And I took Harry Chapin a beer. And I go, first off, you got to do the weapons loader toast. And you had the bottles, I go, you click them like this, you turn them a little bit this way, click them like this, turn them a little bit this way, click them like this. But I didn't tell him what the deal is. You put your finger over the top, clop his. And it just, he goes, oh, and he's drinking German beer. And he, thank you. And there was a lot of fun things. You had to go and do different things and take different tours.
Yeah.
And one of the places I loved to go was Amsterdam. Because an American could be himself up there, because there was more Americans there than you could shake a stick at. When we first got up there, we were looking for Americans, and I looked across the street and saw Harley Davidson. And I sat there and we walked and found one of the bridges on Canal Street to go over. Walked up to him, and I didn't see Hell's Angels Amsterdam on the back of his coat. I just looked at him and go, hey, dude, what's happening? He turned around and looked at me and he goes, say that again? And I go, hey, dude, what's happening? He goes, God dang home, folk. And we went in there and we drank beer with him. And then he told us where to go. And you find different experiences all over the place. Like in Germany, we got to see the castles. And there's things over there that people don't know about. They're starting to say now on the Rhine River cruises that they take through there.
Oh, yeah.
Because they got the lighting. Flutog? I think that's what it was, where they take by the castle, like up at Heidelberg, and right where the Rhine River Bridge is, they start lighting flares, red flares that last a long time, all the way up to the castle. And then the more you cheer, the longer they shoot fireworks off, and it'd be up to 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
But you got Americans laying on the bank all day long drinking wine, partying down.
Well, there's going to be 2 more on Thursday. That's where my neighbors are going.
Oh,
Yep, all through Germany.
I don't know. They're usually during their summer months, which is May, June, and July. It might be August, but
They're doing probably off season, but they're going up to.
It's
very cool. I heard it's absolutely gorgeous.
it's just, you go there all the time. And another thing that I did there was we went to at St. Gorsenhausen in Lorelei. It's called Lorelei Amphitheater.
Uh-huh.
And for $11.60, we saw Stanley Clark, Country Joe McDonald and the Fish, Ted Nugent, Uriah Heep, the Small Faces without Rod Stewart, and followed by Aerosmith and Doobie Brothers and Aerosmith. And that was their Living on the Fault Line album. Was the first time I've ever heard it was live.
Right. Wow.
And it concert lasted from 2 in the afternoon till 2:30 that next morning. And it was great.
So could you imagine how much it would cost to do all that stuff, all the different travel that you did,
Oh, yeah.
all the different shows? I mean, that's incredible. I've seen maybe 3 shows, 4 shows my whole life.
And they had Fred Sanford over there.
Oh, that would have been funny.
It was $15 more than your club dues. And it filled up quick. And we were we were right across from the NC, and well, they put us anywhere close to drink.
Right.
And we were right across the street from the NCO club. And I never seen so many black people come out there mad at Fred Sanford. He's dirty.
Oh, yeah.
And he calls us pimps and hoes.
Yeah.
And that's Fred Sanford.
Yeah.
But we've seen a lot of stuff that one New Year's Eve, it rained and it was turned to ice. And here all these people come to the NCO club with dressed up shoes, and all the ladies had their high heels on. They were stepping out of their vehicles, sliding on their butts about halfway down the hill. And all of us were sitting up there drinking and just laughing at them. Drinking and drugging. Normal stuff, but it was different ways of humoring ourselves. In California, they didn't even want us at the NCO club. Our orderly room was a bar.
Oh, wow.
And part of your CQ duties was bartender, and the CQ runner was barmaid. And the bar was open mostly all day long, and we'd never locked the door at night. But they said we partied too much for them. We were all crazy. You kind of had to be.
So the CQ would have been for your dormitory, right?
Yeah.
So I'm putting in here part of your duties was in California, included serving at the in-house bar.
Yeah.
Set up in the dorm.
And with me, I got told a few times on a few things that one over in Germany, we had setting up a AIM-9 missile, and we slid it on the rack, and I plugged it in, and when I plugged it in, it smoked. So what I did right away was react, and I unplugged the umbilical, which I put on there, burnt my hand. And then I looked at the 3-man, and I go, "You got the Allen wrench to open this rack up, don't you?" And he goes, "Yeah," because we were in the safety, and everybody is supposed to run. But me, I looked and I go, "I'm going to slide this missile forward, get over here, get on this missile." Well, I slid it too far forward. It rolled out of the rack and into my arms. I was standing there like this with a missile cradled, and this guy, inspector, was standing right over there just looking at me with big eyes. And the 3-man got over there and they go, "Let's go, put it on the rack." We put it on the rack and we got out of the building, and I got yelled at. And I looked at him and I go, "Why are you yelling at me?" And I go, "I looked at these tech orders and I look at this body. There is no way I'm running that fast anywhere."
Right.
And I go, "And I saved about $1 million aircraft.
Not to mention a few lives.
Can't you just say, don't do it again? You got to go recertify instead of standing here, jump all over my ass?" And I go, "Man," I don't know what's wrong with you people. We did another thing called an air defense turn.
Was that mishap in Germany or California?
In Germany. And this is another one in Germany. we had to do what they call an air defense turn. They fly the aircraft, they land it, they run it through the taxiways to where its Tab V is. Tab V is a concrete bunker. And when it hits this spot, the grounding cable gets put on, everybody does the stray volts checks and functionals. And you've got fuel going in, oxygen going in, you got everything on the plane plus munitions going, all at the same time. We rolled the plane and had it rolling back out on the runway in 19 minutes. And that's all fueled up and everything. And instead of saying we did a good job, we got told slow down. You could have had a major safety violation and some lives could have been killed. And my answer to that was, can't you guys just say you did a good job once in your life? And he didn't like that. I got to go talk to my squadron commander and my first sergeant. And they got to know me real well because I learned, in Germany, they said if we had an idea to save the government money, give them the idea. Well, the load crew that I was on, we had an idea. We gave it to the shift supervisor. A month later in the Airman's Magazine was his name and an idea that he gave out that got him $500. I walked into the office and I go, Sergeant Hammond, I go, where's that $500? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, we gave you that piece of paper with all that wrote down on it that you turned in. And he goes, you got proof of it? And that showed me right there that I did not anymore go through the chain of command because it was bad and you didn't get stuff across. So if stuff happened, I went and saw the first sergeant and then squadron commander. I even checked my room one time. They run the dog through, and over in Germany you could roll your key twice and have the bolt 2 inches in the door. Well, that's the way we'd leave it. So when we come back, if somebody was in our room and we only turned it once and it opened up, we'd automatically check the room. Well, I found 15 grams of hash tucked away clear in the back of the freezer. And it wasn't any of ours. So I pocketed that hash.
Because yours was packaged differently.
Yes. So I took that 15 grams of hash down to my first sergeant and looked at him and I go, oh, Sarge, you mind if I shut your door? And he goes, well, I don't think we really have to. And I go, I think we really do. And he goes, go ahead. And I shut the door and I went and set it down right on his desk. And I go, that was found in my freezer. And he goes, what is it? And I go, I haven't opened it, but I bet I can tell you it's hash. And he goes, well, I got to go over to the commander. And he went and got the commander. Commander come in there, saw that. Commander called down to the security police and asked if they were missing any evidence. And the guy goes, 15 grams of hash. And he goes, you can come up here right now and bring that dog handler up here with you and we'll give you your hash back. It's been brought into my office. Well, that went down, and when that guy was leaving, he pointed at me and in his words, he says, I'm going to get you. You should have never done that. Because I made him look like a fool. When he was at the front gate and right before he left, he said, he goes, I'm going to search you for hash. Go right to hell ahead. Didn't find anything. And I go, now I'm going to talk to you about illegal search. And this other security policeman was there, goes, God, you don't even give up, do you, to that other SP? He goes, he's got you now and he got you again. And I go, I'll let this one ride. See ya.
Yeah.
But, well, after they mess with you in the military too, you get to a point where you learn the rules.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And one thing my dad told me, and I told a lot of them in there, Ron, you don't have to take shit from nobody. And I told him, I don't.
Very good.
And that's, when you do your job, you got to do it. And you got to learn that you got to keep your mind in a good shape.
Is there anything that you would do over again, or do differently, I should say?
Well, I would have, to get more, I wasn't told to give them the chance. When you go into the military, you got to have a guaranteed job, guaranteed field. And they didn't tell me that, it means that I missed that I could have got out of the military. But I probably wouldn't have got out anyway. Because it's a good way for a person to grow up. Get away from your parents, you're away from everybody to teach you to go their way. And you're all there together. I was told that we had a lot of prejudice in there. And I go, no, we didn't. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, the only way, we didn't look at you for color, any colors. If you didn't do your job, we beat the shit out of you until you did it right. And we didn't care what color you were. I go, we were all kids, drinking and drugging and doing a job. And I go, you got to learn to get along. And I go, that's one thing that makes it easier in this world. And from where I all been, that showed me, for some people, you got to slow down your talking and listen real close to what they say. Because, well, when we were in Italy, this one guy said he really put his foot in his mouth this time, and this Italian girl looked at him and he goes, could you do it again? And he goes, what? She goes, I missed it. And we were trying to teach him slang. And then we found out they were communists. And they were no different than we were. And when I was in Spain, this Spaniard come up to me when I was in the Bossa Club, and he gave me a push and said, Yankee, go home. And I told him, I go, listen here. I go, how would you like it if you were in my country and I told you to get the fuck out of here? I go, it's not good. I go, you really make a guy feel good. And then I did a thing with the Americans do I took both palms and popped him in the chest and pushed him backwards. And I didn't think anything was going to happen. But one friend that was with me goes, Ron, here comes that guy back here. Well, I had an elbow up because if he was going to do anything, I was going to jack him. And the guy goes, you don't need that. He's got 2 drinks. And he tapped me and I turned around. He goes, I apologize and thank you. And I go, thank me for what? For showing you that I'm not like the regular people in our diplomatic deal where we got a cob up our butt. We're just like you. I go, I'm teaching you something? He goes, yes, sir. And he goes, and I owe you 1 more drink for it. Thank you very much. And I just sit there and I go, I taught him. And it's just people don't, well, they see what our guys in office are like.
Right.
And they think we're all the same. And we're no different than they are.
Yeah, we're just the instruments of the policies.
Yeah, and the one thing they kept saying to us all the time, remember, you're a diplomat of the United States. Act as it. And that made you kind of think on stuff. And in Spain, I taught, these old guys were watching us throw Frisbee. And we taught them how to throw the Frisbee. And those guys got one guy threw it and he went about 10 feet and he was jumping up and down. Americans.
Oh yeah, and they could have taught us a lot of soccer back then.
Oh yeah, but they had their bar games.
So Ron, you brought something in with you.
Yeah.
And that is an oldie.
From 1974.
Yeah, and that, what did we call those?
When I was in the service and went over in Germany, we went like this, and we were submarine captains.
We always called those the bus driver cap.
Yeah, that's because when
and we won't say what they called the flight cap.
Yeah. Because when we landed at an airport, you wouldn't believe how many times people asked me to pick their luggage up and carry it. And I go, excuse me?
So they thought you were the hop.
Yeah. Well, but when I got back to the States, I couldn't wear a uniform. We had to have it on for a half hour to for your out briefing and sign out. And then we were pointed right to a bathroom. Take that uniform off, get your civvies on, stow it away. The bus driver leaves in 15 minutes. And that's when things will happen. But the one thing that they really did, that they gave us all, we all had to have military haircuts when we come back to the States. And then they go, blend in. How many people in the United States have white walls around their ears?
Yeah.
And me, when I was in the military, I told this one black guy that I lived with, I go, the only thing I don't like about you is you can pat your hair down, or I gotta grease it.
Yeah.
And I go, when you get off work at the end of the day, you can throw it back out and nobody knows you're in the military.
Yeah.
But a lot of people goes, Ron, they never would have guessed you in the military either.
Anyway, yeah.
That was long hair.
Yeah. Well, let's, is there anything else that you would like to add? I want you to know how much we appreciate you sharing. I learned a few more new things about you, Ron. I'm very proud to know you, and thank you for your service, and welcome home.
Thank you.
This is for the Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial Foundation and those that are all part of the project, and there's many, to say thank you and to honor you and your service. We already know that wasn't done when you came home.
Yeah, well, a lot of it anymore, when they do say thank you on these big deals, it's a little too late.
Understood.
Understood. When you go through life and you don't even want to tell anybody you were in the military.
Yep.
Because people, and I got called already, we were losers by the Korean War and some World War II.
That made it even that much more difficult.
And I told them we weren't given the chance.
I think there's a lot more understanding today than there ever has been between veterans, and then what we just recently seen with Afghanistan. Even our newer veterans have a very strong understanding of what things were like for our Vietnam veterans, and it all seems to be focused back to that era.
And we're the ones that are giving them the welcome homes,
Yep.
and all the stuff that they deserve, that we never got.
Leadership by example.
And they deserve it.
Yeah. Well, Ron, thank you very much, and we appreciate it. And I am going to end at that point.